1917. The Russian Empire collapses. The Bolsheviks and the White Army plunge Russia into a brutal civil war. But behind the battles that shaped modern history, a far stranger war was being fought. One so bizarre, so terrifying, that it was erased from the record. A war against an enemy neither red nor white, but something ancient, something hidden deep in the Mongolian wilderness, a force that could change the course of history itself, a force of talking animals. For centuries, Mongolian shamans have been said to communicate with animals, believing them to be spiritual guides. But some records suggest something much more sinister. Ancient texts from the Mongolian Empire describe wolves that spoke in human tongues, horses that refused to be ridden by those they deemed unworthy, and eagles that delivered messages across vast distances, seemingly with full understanding of their contents. These were dismissed as myths until the Russian Civil War brought them into direct conflict with human warfare. The first reports came in late 1918. A Bolshevik scouting party sent to assess White Army positions near Mongolia never returned. When a second group was sent to investigate, they found the first team's remains, torn apart as if by wild animals. But their weapons were still intact, and there were no signs of a struggle. It was as if they had been ambushed by something that outmatched them in strategy, not just brute force. The White Army, too, encountered strange occurrences. Cossack cavalry units reported that their horses began acting erratically, refusing to follow commands. Some claimed their animals seemed to warn them of impending danger, while others spoke of hearing voices in the wind. At first, it was dismissed as wartime paranoia, but as the encounters grew more frequent, fear spread. Soldiers reported seeing wolves moving in perfect synchronization, their attacks too coordinated to be natural. Some even swore they heard them speaking in a language they couldn't understand. In 1920, as the war neared its climax, Soviet intelligence intercepted a White Army report describing a bizarre incident near the Mongolian border. An entire regiment had been slaughtered in a single night, their bodies left untouched, but their weapons stripped from them. Their horses were found standing idly, unafraid, as if they had chosen to abandon their riders. Among the White Army officers, whispers spread of a hidden force, a faction neither Bolshevik nor loyalist, but something far older. It was then that Leon Trotsky himself became involved. As the head of the Red Army, Trotsky was a man of strategy and efficiency, but also a known supporter of experimental sciences and the occult. In early 1921, he made an unscheduled trip to Mongolia under the pretense of securing alliances. But records of what happened there are strangely incomplete. Local accounts speak of secret meetings held deep in the mountains, of strange figures that were neither Russian nor Mongolian, yet possessed an uncanny presence. It is believed that Trotsky struck a deal. In exchange for their loyalty, he would grant them a hidden kingdom, free from human interference. What exactly he promised remains unknown, but after his visit, the strange reports ceased, at least for a time. Red Army forces were suddenly able to push into Mongolia with little resistance. It was almost as if they were being allowed through. But this truce would not last. After Lenin's death, Stalin took power, and Stalin feared anything he could not control. He had already purged countless rivals, but there was one threat that could not be tried in a court or executed in a basement. The order was clear: exterminate them. Erase all trace of their existence. In 1923, Soviet special units were deployed to Mongolia, disguised as border patrols. But their true mission was far darker. Villages suspected of harboring knowledge of the creatures were burned. Shamans, the last remaining link to their secrets, disappeared overnight. The Red Army claimed they were stamping out superstition. But those who survived the purges told a different story, of entire wolf packs wiped out with military precision, of wild horses hunted down as if they were rebels, and of vast empty landscapes where once there had been something watching. Officially, the mission was a success. The creatures, if they had ever existed, were no more, and yet strange occurrences never truly stopped. In 1937, a Soviet geologist on an expedition in the Altai Mountains reported something eerie. He described coming across a wolf unlike any he had seen before, larger, with eyes that seemed to study him with intelligence. The wolf did not attack. Instead, it followed the team for days, watching, listening. When they set up camp, they swore they could hear faint whispers in the wind, though no one dared to repeat what they heard. The team cut their mission short. Officially, it was due to bad weather. Unofficially, they left because of something else. In 1986, during the Soviet Union's final years, a group of biologists reported hearing human-like speech in the wilderness, except no humans were nearby. Audio recordings were confiscated, and the team was told never to speak of it. Shortly afterward, the entire region was declared off-limits under the guise of a Wildlife Preservation Act. But what were they really trying to protect or contain? Then in 2009, satellite imagery picked up something even stranger. Deep in the Gobi Desert, an unnatural formation spanning nearly a mile in length, shaped like a horse. Some claimed it was a trick of the light. Others believed it was the last remaining evidence of the hidden kingdom Trotsky had promised. The official records deny everything. The Soviet Union's archives contain no mention of a talking animal army or Trotsky's secret trip to Mongolia. But documents can be erased. Witnesses can be silenced. The question remains, if Stalin truly succeeded in wiping them out, then why do the stories persist? Travelers to Mongolia still report strange encounters. Wolves that watch with unnatural intelligence. Eagles that seem to follow without reason. Horses that refuse to be ridden by certain people. It could all be coincidence, or it could be something more. Perhaps they still exist, hidden in the deepest parts of the wilderness, waiting. Perhaps they are simply biding their time, watching human civilization rise and fall, knowing that one day the balance will shift again. Maybe they are still out there, and maybe one day they will return.